So I had a call recently with one of my clients, Bilal, and it made me think about making this YouTube video that I'm making for you today, because Bilal is one of our success students. He came to us with an existing rent-to-rent portfolio of, I think, 3 or 4 rent-to-rents, and he's been our biggest success story yet in terms of time taken to get a rent-to-rent deal whilst working with us. It took Bilal only 29 days into joining the program to get his 4th or 5th rent-to-rent deal, and obviously he already had a set of skills, so it wasn't like working with a complete beginner. All he needed from me was my systems, a little bit of mentoring, and he was away. He had already got a few deals himself through his immediate network, but what he needed from me, I guess, was my acquisition strategies, a little bit of fine-tuning with his business, and he got his first deal really quickly. But the conversation we had the other day was a really good conversation, really powerful conversation. He's just bought his first investment property down in Wales, funnily enough, where I invest, and he was at a place where he wasn't sure whether to buy a property or whether to put that 30-40 grand into another set of rent-to-rent deals, whether that be 5 to 8 rent-to-rent deals, depending on how much each one cost him. He didn't know whether to put that money into more rent-to-rents and scale, or whether to buy somewhere. When is the right time to diversify? I think personally the perfect property portfolio has a mixture of rent-to-rents but also some ownership in there as well. You need to have high cash flow, which can be your rent-to-rent business, but you should also have some capital appreciation, because it's good to diversify your income. And speaking from experience, buying properties has been one of the best decisions I've ever made, because it just takes the pressure off a little bit. I don't have to keep getting rent-to-rent deals. I know that I've got capital invested in a safe asset class that pays me passive income and also goes up in value over time in my sleep without me having to do anything, right? So not only do I benefit from the cash flow from my rent-to-rent business, but I also get to benefit from the passive cash flow from my buy-to-let portfolio, as well as getting paid from the capital appreciation as the asset increases. So by buying, you're actually adding 2 additional income streams to your property empire. And I think a lot of rent-to-renters that you see on the internet, they get stuck in the cycle of just only doing rent-to-rent because they see it as a higher cash flowing strategy than buy-to-let, which I understand, right? Because you can make £1,000 a month from a rent-to-rent deal, and you normally only make £350, £400 from a typical buy-to-let every month. But what rent-to-renters don't consider is the appreciation that you benefit from when you buy somewhere as well. So if you think about a typical £100,000 house, on average, say property prices increase by 5% a year in the north of England, in Wales, where I invest, even though it's been a bit more than that, but if we just say on average 5%, then every year that house is going up in value by 5 grand. So in 3 years time, you've made 15 grand without doing anything. And if you're smart and savvy, you can refinance that asset and withdraw that additional equity and put that with the 4 or 5 grand a year you've been making from the rental income from that asset, and you should have around 25-30 grand to go and buy another, and each house can sort of start to pay for the next house. And that's how things start to compound, and you can really scale your net worth by investing in assets that appreciate and then leveraging the additional equity out of them being smart with the rental income, saving it and using it to buy more assets, right? So I say all of that to say this: when's the right time to buy property whilst running a rent-to-rent business? And I would say, if you can get yourself to a place where you're making between 3 to 5k a month from your rent-to-rent business, I think that's a great place to get to, because you're gonna replace your income at around the 2-3k mark for most people, and that will give you your time back. So you have 6-7 hours a day back that you otherwise would be sitting at a desk at your job wasting away, and you can then use that time to learn new skills, improve your skills as a rent-to-rent operator, as an entrepreneur. You can spend more time with your family, you can concentrate on your fitness, your health, you can read more. All these things improve you as a person, as a business person, as a human in general. You can really sharpen the knife when you have more time, right? And you can also, if you're making between 3 to 5k, if you're smart with the money you're making, 5k a month is around 60 grand a year. And if you can live off of 25-30 of that, obviously you have to pay tax and things, and additional expenses pop up here and there. But generally speaking, if you're making 60 grand a year, you should be able to invest around 20 grand of that, maybe even 30, in a buy-to-let every year. And what that will do is add additional income streams to your empire. You'll start to benefit from capital appreciation. You'll start to get passive rental income from your buy-to-let. You'll be able to leverage that additional equity back out in a few years' time and buy another, and it will take the pressure off of always trying to scale your rent-to-rent business, because you'll have other income streams, you'll have equity. And I think that's the perfect portfolio, a mixture of high cash flowing rent-to-rents, minimum £600-700 a month profit from a 5k investment is where you want to be at. And then you can use the profits from that once you get that business to 2, 3, 4, 5 grand a month. Save that money. Don't go crazy. Don't go buying new cars or buying fancy clothes. Try and save 25-30 grand of that a year. Be frugal, live below your means, and use that additional money that you make every year from your rent-to-rent business to buy a property every year. And if you do this for the next 3 to 5 years, I promise you'll be so far ahead of everyone else. You'll be in such a privileged position where you have cash flow coming in from your rent-to-rents that you only need to work a couple hours a day for, if that. If you employ someone to do the lettings side of things and dealing with tenants and admin, then you'll be in a position like me where you spend 1 hour a week on your rent-to-rent business, and you could easily be making 5, 10, 15 grand a month from that business. And then use that additional surplus income to, of course, replace your 9 to 5 income, get yourself out of the rat race, get your time back, grow your skills as an entrepreneur, as a business person, and then invest most of that money into assets that will appreciate in value over time, pay you a passive recurring income, will also pay you equity over time as they increase in value. And that to me is the perfect portfolio: high cash flow in rent-to-rents and a portfolio of buy-to-lets. You could even furnish those buy-to-lets and rent those out as mini Airbnbs and make those high cash flowing assets too. It may be more difficult to refinance them with them being used as Airbnbs. The best way to refinance is just to put a normal tenant in them. That's what the lenders prefer to see. If you've only got a normal buy-to-let mortgage, that's what they want to see. So however you figure that out, that's a good problem to have. You can cross that bridge when you get there. But my point is, when should you diversify your rent-to-rent profits and start buying? I say between 3 to 5k when you get to that point. Once you've replaced your 9 to 5 income and you get a couple more rent to rents under your belt, you should be looking at saving that income and getting yourself your first buy to let, which will start to pay for itself and pay for the next one, as long as you're smart with the money. So yeah, that's my lesson, my message today. Once you get to the £3 a month mark, start thinking about, right, I need to start considering buying a buy to let somewhere. And once you're making £5 a month, you should be saving 25-30 of that a year to buy somewhere. And if you do this for the next 3 years, you'll be in a completely different space to everyone else. You'll be financially free. You'll have a portfolio of buy-to-lets. You'll have rent-to-rents that are paying you, and you'll be financially free. So that's the goal, guys. Get it done. And if you want someone to help you start or scale your rent-to-rent business, I'll put a link in this video description below. Click the link, book a call. It's a free call, so don't worry. On that call, we'll have a chat, see if we're a good fit to work together. If so, then great. I look forward to working with you. If not, that's fine too. Keep watching my videos, keep learning, keep getting inspired by my success students. And as always, I will see you on the next one.